Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back. It's another kind of, sort of, somewhat random vlog, although I had inspiration for this particular vlog earlier tonight when I was watching a Twitch stream of a YouTuber who's pretty freaking awesome. Someone who's been very, very nice and kind and supportive to me and my meager little channel here. But anyway, it's Guernsey Dave. I think I've mentioned him in the past. But conversation in the stream got around to alcoholic beverages and whatnot. And I just happened to mention the fact that I don't drink alcohol. And I guess I just never really had any reason to discuss it in a vlog because it never comes up. As a person who doesn't drink, and of course as a person who's not super social and doesn't go out to a lot of social gatherings and events and whatnot, you don't really ever get around to discussing that with other people. So other than a few friends and coworkers and whatnot, I've never really discussed the fact that I don't drink. I've only had alcohol imbibed into my system twice in my entire life. I'm 39 now. The most recent time was New Year's Eve of 1999, when it flipped over to 2000. I was actually with my fiance at the time at a work party. It was a get together of some people from where I worked at, because she and I worked together. And we were at the house of one of our supervisors, and I don't even remember what all we did that night, other than the fact that some alcohol was introduced, and of course that peer pressure thing, doesn't matter what your age is, somebody sometime somewhere is probably going to try to get you to drink something. So that night I had a few different people who were saying, hey, why don't you drink something? Why don't you drink something? I was pretty proud of the fact that I had not drank up to that point in my life, other than the one time, the first and only other time I had drank. But I let them talk me into it, and it was Jack Daniels, like whiskey. It was a couple of shots. I don't remember exactly how much. More than one. Less than 5. I guess it's funny that I said I don't remember, because it was not like I blacked out that night. I don't ever remember any point in that evening not being able to recall what was going on. But I had a couple of drinks, and then the night went on, and we all left, and at some point, tensions grew a little thick over reasons that I don't recall. But I do know that the next day, when I was talking with my fiance at the time, my ex-wife at this point, she said that I was very, very mean, and that some of the people that we worked with were other family members of hers, and these family members were not happy with me, and she almost called off the engagement at that time. And I don't mean to be flippant about it or anything, but like I said, I don't recall what happened. I don't remember not being in control. I don't remember any space of time where I'm like, what happened? I don't remember. Honestly, and this is just my interpretation of it now, especially since it's like over 14 years later, but I think it was just another argument, like, every relationship, it happens to everybody. I think it was just an argument that, maybe she took a little too personal. Or maybe it's possible that the alcohol caused me to be a little less inhibited. But I mean, we had arguments and things were said, and, you'd yell and you'd say things that later on you would kind of regret. So I really just have a hard time believing that the alcohol that night made that much of a difference. But that's been a big reason why I haven't drank since then. Not that there have been opportunities, really. I'll get into that here in a moment because that actually makes me think about something. But the only other time prior to that, and the only other time ever that I've had alcohol, I was a little kid. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and it was by no means like a massive amount of alcohol or anything, so don't be concerned about that. But it was just basically a swig of a can of beer. So, and that's all I remember was just being disgusted by the taste of beer, and to this day I continue to think that beer is such nasty shit that I don't understand why there are so many people who like to come home with a 12-pack of beer and sit there and sip on a few cans every evening. I'm sure it's for the alcoholic effect. It makes me relaxed. It calms me down. It chills me out. Whatever the case may be for people who like to drink beer. But that taste, though, there's no way in the world I could get around that nasty ass taste. And no, I've not tried like microbrewery stuff. I have not tried that homemade type stuff that people will make with flavors and whatnot. I'm just talking about beer, Budweiser and Miller and Coors and all those other beer brands. So, I should probably give a little backstory on basically why I don't drink. And that's first and foremost because my dad is a long-time recovering alcoholic. He quit probably, I'd say maybe a couple years before that incident where I had beer. But when I was pretty young, it had to have been sometime after my parents got divorced when I was 4, because he got sole custody of me, and he would have had to have been trusted by the court. Not to say that a person couldn't convince the court that they were clean and sober and not be, but I can tell you this about my dad: he quit and he never drank again for the rest of his life. But when I was a youngin', I know I was exposed to him solving his hangover issue in the morning by getting drunk again right off the bat. So anyway, he got himself cleaned up, and even though I was awfully young to realize what it was he was doing, what kind of a message he was sending, and what kind of a act it was for, in conjunction to me, but also for himself. I didn't have any idea. It would be years later before I would really realize it. But my exposure to alcohol, despite the fact that my dad had quit, would continue on, sometimes in major ways, right in my face kind of ways, and in other times, from a distance, because of the fact that my dad was a musician and played in bars and stuff. He wasn't like a concert pianist. He wasn't touring with an actual act. He was a bar musician playing drums in bars, honky-tonks, all kinds of these crazy kind of places that cause people to be exposed to all that kind of element. And that was, I think, where I learned most, was from my exposure to bandmates and bar owners and bar goers and bar flies and the whole nine. All these people who haunt, the bars and that lifestyle. I was around it for several years as I was growing up because my dad played music, and that was just the environment. And I pieced things together. I thought to myself, this is how my dad was, and he was able to get away from it. He was able to quit. He was able to distance himself from it, but not only distance himself from it, but be right there in it and not partake. He resisted the temptations. He told me in later years it was very tempting for him to drink again for all those years. So I was able to take that example and move forward in my own life saying, this is not for me. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink socially. I'm not going to drink heavily. Lord knows I've got enough issues in my life that I could be trying to drink the depression and the issues away. But I just don't see that as something, it's not a viable option for me. I don't want to be self-medicated, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. I don't want to have accidents. I don't want to jeopardize my time with my daughter. I don't want to shaft myself out of time with the things that I love to do, like videos, like YouTube, like video games and movies, and this shit back here. If I started to drink, who's to say how long it would be before I would try to take this stuff and sell it away for alcohol. And it could be a portal to drug use and all those other kinds of things, which I'm just going to state right out now. I've never had any kind of drugs. I've never popped pills. I've never shot up. I've never snorted anything. I've never smoked weed. I don't want to do any of those things. I have no desire. Drugs are probably a different conversation, perhaps for another time. But it's just, I don't want to be associated with any of that kind of stuff if I can help it. But at the same time, I want to make it clear that I'm not preaching at anybody. And this is probably why I don't bring this up very often. I don't want to preach at people for how they live their life and what they partake in. Now, if you drink and you overdrink, if you sacrifice the important things in your life to make time to drink, if you drink and drive, if you drink and attempt to, sexually assault other people, if you drink and you neglect your kids or important responsibilities, I ain't got no love for you. And I'll sit right here and say it every time. Those are horrible things to do. And if that's where your drinking is, get yourself checked out, because it's not cool. But people who drink in moderation, and it sounds like such a silly cliche or an after-school special or something like that, or maybe not an after-school special, but like a PSA of some sort. Drink in moderation, don't drink and drive, and all those things that should be really freaking obvious to most people. If you're able to do that, then what the hey? I know they even have studies and stuff out there that say a certain amount of alcohol intake is healthy to a degree. Either at a certain amount or maybe certain kinds of alcohol, wine or whatever it is. I'm not sure. I would never even try to start to do that just because somebody somewhere said it would actually be healthy. Right now, I distance myself from it because of my past. And because I don't want to overdo it. Like, if there's anything I have an addiction to, it's that stuff back there. And that stuff back there is cool, but overdoing it as far as spending too much money on it is not cool. And it can become an addiction, just like alcohol, just like drugs. Alcohol is one of those things that's just I think it's probably the most readily available thing, even though there's age restrictions and all that, and like any other thing, it's expensive. It's probably the most readily available thing that's out there when it comes to these so-called relaxants and things that are supposed to open people's minds and make them more creative, make them more passionate, make them drop their inhibitions, drop the stress and whatnot. It's super, super readily available, and it's just one of those things that I can't allow myself to get into. I've learned the lessons from the past, and plus I regardless of what my relationship with my dad is like, it would dishonor everything that he did for me when he chose to stop drinking all those years ago. So, anyway, I guess in summation, I just wanted to reiterate what I said before. I'm not preaching at anybody who drinks. If it relaxes you, if it brings you enjoyment, if it's something you do in the comfort of your own home with friends, if you do it responsibly, if you don't drink and drive, etc., 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 more power to you. Have at it, because I'm not going to step on anybody's toes. But it's just not for me. It's not something I could ever see myself doing, at least as this guy, you know. I had this thing a few years back with someone, and I thought that maybe they were going to be the person that would maybe break me out of my shell a little bit. And I had seriously discussed and decided that it might be something I could allow into my life, with a companion there to I don't know, guide me along, I guess. Someone who I knew was responsible. Anyway, it's neither here nor there, really. But cause I'm not a never say never guy, but I will say I will never be a chronic alcoholic, a heavy drinker, someone who partakes in overly abundant amounts. It's not going to happen. So anyway, I guess that's my pointless little vlog about the drinkings, the inebriants. It's just not for me. So, thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time.